Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to a live stream session here. I haven't done one of these in ages, but we will be going over a few topics this morning. And, well, don't you hate when your nose? So, somebody emailed me a couple of days ago and they wanted, well, I shouldn't quite put it as wanted, but they requested me doing a topic on how to fight depression and how to kind of get get past it. And actually, I honestly thought that was a good topic. I was talking with that specific person, and I agreed to get on board and make this video this Saturday. So, a lot of times with depression, there's different. You got your and manic episodes, and there's bipolar is a slightly more moderate version, in my opinion. You got. Well, let me pull up my cheat sheet here that I made the other day. So, so with depression and that, you got different levels of it. There's some minor depressions. There's some major depressions. I would say, well, even I suffer from depression, but it got so bad to the point. First, we're going to kind of go through the symptoms of what to look for. Sleeping during the day is one. That means even though you sleep well at night, you get like 9, 10 hours of sleep. But then again, during the daytime, you you don't really feel like doing anything. You got the tendency of just wanting to hide, wanting to avoid social situations, being kind of on the sluggish side. And what I mean by that is hard time with organizational skills, um, being able to concentrate, be organized. With depression, it's kind of hard to stay motivated. It's like those that are on 80, those that are ADD or ADHD. It's where you're all over the place and you can't concentrate. Okay, that's kind of different. It's not the best scenario to put into depression, but what I'm getting at is you don't have the drive or the intuition to be able to get yourself to concentrate and a lot of times with depression, there's some people that associate food or you binge eat, go to McDonald's or Culver's or Burger King or whatever, and you buy 20, $30 worth of stuff you really don't need and you stuff your face. What I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to make those people that do that feel bad about themselves. But that's one of the classic one of the signs of depression when you binge eat, or if you cut meals, like skip eating for days at a time. That's also weight gain and weight loss is another sign of depression, especially if you're putting on a lot of weight, like 10 pounds here, 10 there. Not in a average amount of time. I'm talking within like a week, if you think about that. So that is something that is eventually it'll lead to heart disease, diabetes, sleep apnea. And for the younger people out in the audience that don't know what heart disease is, you could wind up getting an enlarged heart, uh, atrial fibrillation, which is erratic rhythm. So instead of it going boom, 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 they go boom, dee, boom, boom, dee, bomb. Just as an example. And with diabetes, what could happen is, well, your glucose numbers would be out of whack, your blood sugar would be out of whack. And with diabetes, I guess we're getting into all sorts of interesting topics in this video, but that's okay. Well, no, I'm not diabetic either. I'm pretty lucky not to be. But problem with being once you're diabetic, chances are you'll be a diabetic for life. So it's not something that you want to do. So another thing to avoid is just watch what you eat, get your depression under control, and things should be fine. Well, if you do end up becoming a diabetic, you would have to inject yourself with insulin like roughly 4 times a day. But that's beside the point. Thank God I don't have to do that, so that's all good. But we'll get back to and then the whole sleep thing. If you're feeling restless or agitated, restless is when you can't relax and you're just kind of tense and you're kind of bouncing all over the place. And agitated is when you're irritable and you're just kind of crabby and you're tense and you're just kind of like "Ugh." So there are some days that I get like that and I get ir- irritated and I snap at people. Not that I want to, but when I was in and out of ICU when I had COVID and that, oddly enough, I wasn't that crabby most of the time. But then again, when you're doped up on morphine and oxycodone and Vicodin, and you're on 20, 30 different antibiotics and all that, you you're kind of way up there, and you don't really know what's going on, and you're kind of in a delirium. So it's kind of hard to be in a crabby state when you feel that high up there. So any other topic that we're going to move on to within that topic is a lot of times you feel sluggish, slow down physically or mentally. You just feel exhausted all the time. You just kind of Can't drag yourself forward. You can't move on. You're stuck in a rut. And then the other one is being tired without energy. That's just kind of like best way to describe that is you kind of you got to drag yourself to get anything done. You have trouble concentrating, making decisions. And the worst thing of all with depression is thoughts of suicide. I know that's major red flag, but anybody with thoughts of suicide, you should talk to your family, talk to your doctor, talk to talk to a priest or a pastor about how you're feeling. There are people out there that can help you, but by that point, if you can't get yourself out of depression, no matter what you try, then you may have to go to the doctor and get yourself medicated. There are many different antidepressant and anxiety medications out there. There's Prozac, there's fluoxetine, there's there's a big list of different antidepressants, and not all antidepressants will work on you. And there's also different dosages of medicine as well. But your doctor has to determine what amount you need. Because the problem with antidepressants are some of them can work for you, but if you take too much or too little, you're going to have episodes as well. And some of those drugs can be addicting. So you have to be careful with how many you take. It's like those narcotic prescriptions like Vicodin and oxycodone. They can be addicting. It's like, I would say it's the equivalent to like smoking or doing drugs. You kind of you can get addicted to. You can even get addicted to melatonin. And they say that you can't, but theoretically you still can. Because once you abuse melatonin, your body needs, you kind of got that urge to take more and more and more and more. It's not as potent as other sleeping drugs, but it's like those over the counter sleeping pills. You take too many of those, you can kill yourself. And there are some people that do, especially if you mix it with beer or alcohol or vodka or whiskey. So that's not something that you want to really do either. So, in most antidepressant drugs will take 2 to 4 weeks before they'll even become active. And even if you do change doses by your doctor's recommendation or approval, that will also take 2 to 4 weeks before they'll kick in. So, just something to think about, something to, so now we're going to move on to anxious distress. So, the best way to describe that is you feel tense, restless most days. You have trouble concentrating because you're worried that something awful could happen. And you feel like you might lose control of yourself. What that means is, like, let's say you go shopping or something and worry that you're never going to see that product again or something, and you just buy five of the same things because you're obsessed with I would say that's similar to excessive compulsive disorder. It's where you concentrate on one thing all the time, and it's actually kind of can be a scary thing because you do things on impulse. It's instead of rational. Maybe like if you bought five of these phones and because you were worried that you would never be able to find another one in case that one quit working, or you bought a car that was on sale that you really didn't need because you're afraid that you'd never be able to find that thing again, and you just sit and obsess over it over and over and over. That's maybe I haven't explained it that well, but then again, we'll we'll move on from there. Okay, let's see here. If I'm pronouncing this correctly, melancholy. I'm sure I didn't pronounce that correctly, but oh well. So that is, you feel intensely sad, lose interest in activities and you that you used to enjoy. That's like if you go out with friends or do activities or you've got hobbies or something, and you just kind of feel like sleeping your days away, and you just don't really go and do that. You just sit in a chair and just stare forward, and you feel bad even when good things happen, and you feel particularly down in the mornings. I can relate with that 'cause there's times that I've felt like that. You lose weight because you don't eat, sleep poorly. I would have to say I've never really had that problem with sleeping poorly. But then again, suicidal thoughts is kind of throws a red flag there. So if you have melancholic or melancholic depression, your symptoms might have worsened in the mornings when you first wake up. Instead of having someone help you with your first task of the day, make sure to eat regularly if you don't even feel hungry. A lot of times when you're in a hospital for 2 to 4 months, you kind of, I would have to say in a way you kind of lose interest in getting better. You kind of become dependent on other people to get your day going, even though you once were successfully able to get your bearings going on your own, like get up, get dressed, get go to work or something, or go to your job, or go places, do things. But when you're when you fall flat on your face and you've tipped rock bottom, where you come to a point where you're incapacitated, and I was for a short while. I can relate with to this one as well. When you're in ICU for 6 to 9 weeks, and you have to have nurses and CNAs in a hospital, basically do all your basic stuff like get bathed, feed yourself, uh, basic care items. You kind of get into the demoral state where you just kind of give up on improving, getting better. But then again, there's some people that after a while it gets ingrained in them that they can't do those things for themselves anymore, even though that they're more than perfectly capable of doing. And it's kind of a sad to see that, but it happens more often than you'd like it to. But okay, we're gonna move on. So if you're another symptom of depression is being agitated. You feel uneasy most of the time. You may also talk a lot. So it's like if you're talking like 100 yards a minute, or you're just talking random crap, or just talking about stuff that doesn't make sense, and you just talk going. That's in a way that I would have to say that's similar to like ADD or ADHD or being autistic, or but it's get yourself a good doctor, one that actually takes time with you and doesn't give you false BS. So that's, and then this symptom can go multiple ways. Move for no reason, like fidgeting with your hands and pacing around the room. Usually, if you're agitated, you're pacing the floor because you're nervous, or and usually people with ADHD tend to do that as well. And those that are autistic will sometimes do that. And then there are some that do that because they're nervous, upset. It's like those that have lost their jobs, or those going through grief, like loss of a loved one, a pet, like their husband or wife, or son or daughter, or aunt or uncle, or cousin, or close friend. So, or if you're stuck in bankruptcy because bills, or if you're losing your house or lost your job, something catastrophic. So we're gonna move on to the next topic here. Act impulsively. So this is actually a great topic in particular. So with act impulsively is either you go on a repulsive shopping spree, as I call it. You just take your shopping cart, throw all sorts of stuff in there you really don't need. A lot of people, when they go grocery shopping and they act impulsive, they just whip whatever they want, whatever they feel like they need in the cart, like candy or cookies or donuts or whatever, and it's or soda. And a lot of that stuff is not really a good essential to even put in your carts. And it's not even that healthy to eat all those carbohydrates and carbs and sugar. There are no nutritional values to any of that stuff. Best thing you could eat is like carrots, peas, cauliflower, grapes, melon. So, and even cabbage is a very good essential. Cabbage is best thing you could buy is because what cabbage does is it's good for the lining of your stomach, and it also prevents you from getting ulcers, and it's very healthy. Even eating beets, I know they're disgusting and tasteless, and they probably make you want to vomit, but that's another good vegetable to buy. Green beans are another essential that you should buy. But then again, a lot of Americans, when they're agitated, a lot of times they just buy things impulsively, even though they don't need half of what they buy. But a lot of stores also kind of enable that behavior with like commercials, certain sets, certain kind of music, certain behaviors that a lot of store associates set. So I wouldn't say it's 100% the shopper's fault because when you got other people enabling you to act like that, you kind of should also play that into the factor. So there are different therapies that will help with depression. There's electropulsive or compulsive therapy, ECT. I'm not familiar with that therapy, but you would more than likely need to see a psychiatrist or psychologist or counselor to get more in-depth information and treatment options on that. I've never have had therapy like that, but if I got that bad off, I probably would. Then there's also no magnetic stimulation, which is TMS therapy, and then there's vagus nerve stimulation, which is VNS, and then there's ECT uses electrical pulses. TMS is a special kind of magnet, and VNS uses implanted implanted device. All are designed to stimulate certain areas of the brain activity to help the parts of your brain that control your mood work better. But the thing is, it doesn't work for everybody. So do your research before you jump on board with some of this stuff. So the next one we're going to talk about is persistent depressive disorder. And so if you've had depression that lasted for 2 years or longer, it's called persistent depressive disorder. This term is used to describe two conditions previously known as dysthymia, low-grade presence and depression, and chronic major depression. So one of the first ones is changing your appetite, not eating enough or overeating. So that's like if you're binge eating, like you buy yourself a 24-inch pizza and consume that in one sitting. I would classify that as binge eating. Or if you're not eating enough, as just like eating a salad a day, or just drinking a couple glasses of water and calling that good. That I would classify it as not eating. Sleeping too much or too little, which sleeping too much would be like sleeping 12, 13, 14 hours a day, or sleeping too little is getting only like 2, 3 hours, 5 hours a night. Lack of energy is just kind of like dragging yourself. We kind of went over this earlier. And fatigue is just being tired and feeling restless. So that's it's low self-esteem is when you don't feel good about yourself. You're just kind of constantly feeling not worth anything. And trouble concentrating, making decisions is it's like you're trying to work on something, you just can't think clearly, can't process your thoughts, and you have trouble making a decision like, okay, what am I going to do today? I don't know yet. I can't figure it out. And feeling hopeless is just kind of best way to describe that is just you feel you can't fight it, you can't get past it, you're just stuck. So we'll move on. We're gonna move on. We're gonna also talk about bipolar. So best way to describe that is someone with bipolar disorder, which is also sometimes called manic depression, has mood episodes that range from extreme of high energy with up moods to low depressive periods. So it's like the best way to describe that would be only getting 5 hours of sleep a night and just running running around, feeling like you're on top of the world and feeling invincible. And then a few days later you get stuck in this sleeping all day, crying yourself to sleep episodes, or waking up and crying, and just you just feel you can't get past things, and that's, or per se in winter you feel on top of the world and you run outside with your shorts on and t-shirt and jacket, and you just feel, man, this is great. And then a few days later you go back to wearing your regular winter clothes and just feeling it. So let's see here. Medications that can help bring your mood swings under control, whether you're high or low period. Your doctor may suggest a mood stabilizer like lithium, or I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Lithium, yeah, I think that's lithium. The FDA has approved 3 medications to treat the depression phase: Serquil, Latutha, and then and fluoxetine. And that's in a combination. Doctors sometimes prescribe other drugs off label for bipolar depression, such as anticonvulsant, lamotrigine, or the atypical. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing so many words, but when you don't use these kind of terms on a regular basis, you're kind of at a loss for how to pronounce some of this terminology, but it is what it is. And you also got some tip psychotic ver or drugs or something. And traditional antidepressants are not always recommended as a first line treatment for bipolar depression because there's no proof from studies that these drugs are more helpful than placebo sugar pills. There are also a small percentage of people with bipolar disorder with some traditional antidepressants may increase the risk of causing high phases of illness or speeding up frequency of having more episodes over time. Psychotherapy can also help support you and your family. I know I'm not a doctor, but personally, I don't really think sugar pills would help in a situation like that. The only people that sugar pills would help are those that are delusional or those that believe they're sick when they're really not. In my opinion, I honestly don't think that would sugar pills would help a bipolar depressed person. That's just me, but that's my honest opinion. People that are bipolar are not dumb and idiotic. They're I've known a few people over time that have had bipolar, and they're some of the smartest people I've ever met. And I think they know the difference. If a doctor gave them sugar pills, I think they would know the difference. I don't think a placebo pill would not really treat sugar in water or sugar in a capsule is not going to do anything. For a delusional person that thinks they have an illness or something or a cold or something, fine. It's probably not the best way to approach that situation either, but you do what you got to do, I guess. But I don't have to say I agree with everything that's out there, but okay, we're gonna enough said. If you have SAD, antidepressants can help. So can light therapy. So what light therapy is it's a certain kind of fixture with a certain grade of bulbs inside that you just shine on yourself. And that's another way of treating depression. I have one of those lights and I've used it. Usually I get a lot of depression in the wintertime, especially if I don't get enough sunlight. So, that I didn't get it from a doctor. I had a cousin that committed suicide, and that was his. So that was sad thing was he took a revolver and just kind of blew his brains out. And in some cases, it's just some depression is harder to treat than others. But then again, he never really talked to anybody about it either. He just kind of took things his own way. But sometimes you need more help than you can give yourself. So with light therapy, you typically do it for 15 to 30 minutes each day. I know I've been waiting for this topic for quite a bit now to get on. This is psychotic depression. Psychotic depression means people with psychotic depression have these symptoms of major depression along with psychotic symptoms such as hallucinations. Now this is kind of an interesting. I'm going to tell it from two different aspects. From the politically correct aspect, people would say those that suffered hallucinations, seeing or hearing things that aren't there. Those people would say those people would roughly be completely crazy and out of their mind and don't know where they're at and think that they're just a bunch of loonies. But somebody in the charismatic or somebody in the Pentecostal movement or somebody in a non denominational church would look at it from the point of view of that person having demons tormenting them getting swayed into the best way to describe it would be the incarnal flesh. Not that we're trying to get completely off topic here, but so those that would get involved in carnal flesh would be like mainstream music, mainstream TV, uh, being addicted to the system, surrendering to man, uh, sorcery like medications and stuff like that. And their major thing is to avoid, and those that think they're politically correct think that religious people are constantly hallucinating. And in a way, I would have to disagree with the politically correct people in this because God does exist. There are atheists out there that don't believe in God, but in my experiences out there, God is real. You're not crazy for believing in God, and God does do miracles. So those that have witnessed God's work, I will tell you, you're not crazy. Or if God's answered your prayers, you're not crazy either. Or if He gives you a sign or an answer, that's you're not out of your mind. So it's just hang in there. You just open your heart. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the next topic here. And this is another one that you got kind of two different branches to look at this from: delusions and false beliefs. So the best way to put this is the politically correct category of people would label those that that are delusional with false beliefs as, now there's multiple ways of looking at it. Those with delusions, there are some people that believe that they they think that they know people, or that they think they're friends with the president, or they know like Buck Owens or Billy Graham, or or they think they're friends with Donald Trump, or they think they're friends with people in high places when in their aspect they're really not, or they think they have conversations with important people, or they're in the loop on things. So, or it's like they believe that they have the answers to questions and in inquiries or inquiries rather, when they really don't, or they think that they have imaginary friends. In a way, it's kind of hard to elaborate on, but in a way, I guess the easiest way to put this is the government wants everybody to think that those that know too much about stuff that goes on behind the scenes is delusional and crazy in other minds. And a lot of your political correct people want or think that those that know too much or those that are conspiracy theorists are delusionally crazy. I hate to break it to you people, but a lot of your government is not your friend. They don't have any regards of any means of helping you. They're not helping you for the greater good. They just basically use us as guinea pigs for drug trials and experiments and stuff like that. So if you're thinking that the government's out to get you, 9 times out of 10, you're actually correct on that. So you're not delusional. You're not crazy. All right, we're gonna move on to the next topic here within the psychotic section of this little talk. So paranoia, wrongly believing that others are trying to harm you. This one kind of coheres with what we were talking about just a few seconds ago. And the people that that are in the politically correct category, they think that those that think that there's people after them to harm them, in in that they're the ones that don't take whatever vaccine because they're told to, or take certain medications because they believe that they'll help, or if they're told to run around circles holding their finger on their nose because it would be good for mankind. Those are the ones that believe that. But people like us that are not paranoid for wrongly believing, like I said, the government's not your friend. Don't trust them. And don't trust the global elite. So you're not in, you're not in your wrong state of mind for believing what you believe. So let's Move on to the next. So, postpartum depression. Woman who has two major depression in the weeks and months after childbirth may have postpartum depression. Approximately 1 in 10 men also experience depression in the postpartum period. Antidepressant drugs can help similarly treat major depression that related to childbirth. This is kind of an interesting one. Usually most men don't go through this. It's more 99% of women go through this one. But we're going to talk about it anyway because it's part of the spectrum of depression. So, premenstrual dysphoric, I probably pronounced that wrong, disorder, which is PMDD. Women with PMDD depression tend to start with their period. Besides feeling depressed, you may also have mood swings, which is feeling woohoo, woohoo, happy, to feeling sad, but I guess that's the best way to describe that. Irritability is when you're cranky and crabby and you're short with people. Anxiety is when you're worried about things you have no control over. Trouble concentrating is can't concentrate on task. Uh, Fatigue is being tired. Change in appetite or sleep habits. And change in appetite is like eating more or less. Sleep habits is like how many hours you get a night. Feeling or being overwhelmed is when you're overstimulated and you you just kind of feel overwhelmed with stuff. Antidepressants can also treat that. And then there's situational depression. This isn't technically a term in psychiatry, but can have depressed mood when you're having trouble managing or stressful events in life, such as death in your family, a divorce, losing your job. Your doctor may call this stress response syndrome. That's a kind of depression that comes and goes, but it's not something permanent in most books. So, enough said there. Next, we're going to talk about antidepressant depression. This type is different from present sadness to typical depression. It is considered to be a specified that describes a pattern of depressive symptoms, such as if you have atypical depression, positive event can temporarily improve your mood. I can relate with that one. I've dealt with that over a decade. In other symptoms of atypical depression includes increased appetite. So when you're eating more, and more, sleeping more than usual or less than usual, feeling of heaviness in your arms and legs, where you just kind of, it's like if you go into a pool and then you come out, you feel like you've gained 1,000 pounds, and you feel all waterlogged. Or it's another good indication is oversensitive to or sensitivity to criticism. That's I've experienced similar symptoms of that over the years. So let's actually, I think we've pretty much reached the end of our topic here, but so basically, I hope that we covered at least most of the depressive scale in a way that everybody can understand it. I understand this is probably not a perfect video, but it is what it is. We will be doing another one probably later today, so we'll wait and see. But it was a pleasure. I hope you all enjoyed this video. And thank you as always for tuning in or coming back at a later time to watch it. We will do more in the future eventually. So, y'all have a good Saturday. Bless y'all in Jesus' name. And take care. We will be back soon.